Stop talking, start doing. Stop talking, start doing.
You're looking to be more creative and innovative?
Hearing the beats.
And one of the keys to unlocking your potential is an entrepreneurial mindset. I like to say permission granted. No one is successful overnight.
Keep on keeping on.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are at in the world. We are on day 6 of 31 days to PADITU, Put a Dent in the Universe, with me, SEAN GRIFFIN. Thank you for being here today. We've had some great shows and we've had some amazing wisdom from people, friends, and entrepreneurs, and people putting a dent in the universe, sharing ways that they can get unstuck, and also overcoming some of the challenges people are facing today. That seems to be the theme we are getting here, and that is people are stuck, and how do you get unstuck? I'm going to do a little exercise, a visual exercise, which I try to do at the start of every 31 days to PADITU. And in this one is one I use with corporations, organizations, and individuals. So it can be used on an individual basis as well as an organizational or startup basis. You can do this by yourself, with family members or friends. You can do it on Zoom. Here's how it goes. Let's move over to the vision board, Amy. And as I've discussed before, I like using mind maps. It works with your brain's natural ability to process information. Remember, linear thinking is not how we naturally think. The creativity is taught out of us. We heard this from Gary Schoninger. And this is a way to get your creativity and boost your creative IQ by visualizing and mind mapping. Please do follow along at home if you have a sketchbook. In the center of your sketchbook, you want to put what challenges, right? These are mountains here. I'm putting a river, challenges. What you want to do is you want to write down, and it kind of, as they come, this is a free-flowing stream of consciousness process. Again, if you're doing it with more than one person, have them participate. You want to list those things that are challenging you or challenging your goals, your objectives from being achieved. You want to be as exhaustive as possible, listing all the challenges you can identify that you're facing specific to the issue at hand. So you write down those challenges. Then the next step is, on a piece of paper, solutions. Same process. This time, your focus is on identifying solutions to those challenges you just identified. Start with the most difficult challenge. What's the solution? This is hard work. What's the most viable solution? What other solutions can you come up with that can help you to overcome that challenge? List those solutions. Keep listing them until you can come up with no more. There is a natural point at which you've exhausted all your options on solutions, at least for this particular session. So keep going until you find those solutions. Once you've run out of solutions for those challenges, the next step, third step in the process, and this is the hardest part of all, action. Remember, we want to put together a timeline, and the secret to getting things done a year, 2 years ahead of time is focusing your energy on 1 week, 1 month, and 6-month time frames. This is what I'm going to do in 1 week. This is what I'm going to do in 1 month. This is what's going to happen in 6 months. Remember that 6 months looks like this. It never ends. It just keeps going. Oh, let me go this way. It keeps going. So 1 week, 1 month, 6 months goes on forever. But when you work in 1 week, 1 month, 6-month time frames, it's more manageable. It makes it easier. And remember, no more than 5 key areas to focus on. You get past 5 major areas that you're focusing on. This could be developing your team. This could be developing a website. This could be improving your product. This could be going out and selling to customers. This could be putting together a big online conference of some kind. No more than 5. 3, if you're doing 3 major action areas, your odds of success are jumping dramatically. This is how I've helped hundreds of businesses overcome the challenges they face, identify the solutions, and then take action to move their goals and objectives forward. It's very powerful, and it will work for you too. Okay, that's my visual thinking exercise for this morning. Who's our first guest, Amy? Marvin, how are you doing today?
Hey, good morning.
Good morning to you. It's so good to see you.
Oh,
You're here in
you as
DC?
well.
You're in DC right now?
Well, right outside of DC. I'm right here in Silver Spring, Maryland. So yes.
Okay, next door. So you're experiencing this lovely rainy, cold weather here, huh?
Rainy, dreary, yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's the B-52 song, if anybody knows it. You know, it's a dreary downtown day. At the end of my
That's a good
34 leash is my little friend Quiche Lorraine. You know that song?
Not familiar with it, but
Okay.
it sounds like it's appropriate.
That's okay. Marvin, you are involved in supporting a lot of businesses. You help in marketing, promotions, PR. What are you seeing right now with your client base? What's new, and how are you adjusting to our new realities right now with your clients, and how are you advising them? I'm just curious.
Well, Sean, that's a good question. I'm right now pivoting because at a time I was focused my business on working solely with physicians. And a lot of the physicians that I were working with were specialists. What I mean by that, I was working with people who were podiatrists, pain management. Those were elective procedures that people would go in and have done. Laser surgery, stem cells, things of that nature. This pandemic that has occurred basically has made those businesses obsolete right now. Not necessarily obsolete, but they're not taking in patients. So in the state of Maryland, basically, if any elective procedure or anything that you want to have done, you have to put on hold right now because everything is really focused on the COVID-19.
Yeah.
So what that has done for me is for 94th Street Marketing Group has made us pivot away from physicians and start looking at what's next. What can we help people with? How can we have them focus? And what I have noticed is, even though I've been very big with my clients on social marketing, some of them were very hesitant about doing that. Postings, stand abreast with their clients and their patients. So what I've been looking at more in this particular round is how to help them get to doing more social marketing, because as you know, we're going to come out of this pandemic, but that client base or that patient base may have moved because one, they may have lost their apartment, they may have lost their home, may have lost their job. So now you have to re-energize those patients or new customers in this particular case. And how would you do that, or how would you stay abreast with them if you did not have some type of social or outreach campaign? So with me, basically what I've looked at is how to pivot, how to look at new ways to help clients from some of this new technology. Like for instance, what we're doing here with this broadcast that you created. How can you use telemarketing, or not telemarketing, telehealth, to be in front of customers? How can you do something that's totally different to re-energize your customer base? So I've been reading a new book that I share, which is called The Inflection Point. That basically talks about trying to see what is coming next. There's a good caption in the book that talks about how does snow melt? And it doesn't melt from the center, it melts from the edges. Okay. If you ever look at a new idea, a new concept, it comes from the edges. It doesn't come from the center. So you have to be able to see what is next. And that's what I'm looking at right now. What is next? What is next?
What is next? What is next, Marvin? What do you think next?
Well, if you notice, where we're leaning towards more is how can me as a marketer or as a salesperson get engaged with what is happening in our universe right now? And what I mean by that is I have over 14, 15 years of health marketing. right now we are faced with what they call contact tracing. Okay, that's going to be a new brand of opportunity for entrepreneurs. Okay, if you really look at this, and I'm looking at how can I get involved in that line of business right now? How can I be valuable with what I know about healthcare and healthcare marketing? Get involved with that. How can I help doctors be more forthcoming about what may be next as it relates to health? Healthcare is going to look totally different now. So
I have a question, Marvin. So,
sure.
you know, we're the same kind of cut from the same cloth. We believe this, and I believe you believe this, that there are more opportunities now than there ever been. And
Yes,
even more now after COVID-19 right now, there are more opportunities, and all those things that people were talking about related to online this and online that are now happening. And this is a great example right here, right now. But behavior change is hard. And we've had a few business builders on here that, you know, it's unclear whether they're going to be able to take the action or change the behavior necessary to be able to adapt to the changing environment. How are you support, and doctors, from my experience, and I've worked with a lot of doctors, help them advise on starting a new business with a new technology or an existing business. And doctors, they can be challenging sometimes to work with. And so what are you doing to help them shift behavior or take advantage of this moment where they might be more open to changing behavior than they were before?
That's a good question. Well, this new era where we are has made people look at things totally different. So believe it or not, they're more open now that they're the two things that will affect anyone and is life-changing behavior. So what you just spoke about, if my income has been affected, you're going to look at that differently. Okay, if my livelihood has been affected, you're going to look at it differently. So it's not really hard to get them to change or look at things differently. It's just presenting it to them where they see now that I should have made that change. Okay, so this, as you just indicated, this pandemic has made everyone take a new look, a new lease on life. Okay, you have to look at your health a lot better. You have to look at how you socialize a little different. The new normal is totally different here. If it wasn't for this pandemic, we would probably be right now at the Build a Better Business, looking at pitches and doing those things.
In person.
Right. Yeah. So now we have changed the paradigm. We're now doing this live via online. We're now having more interactions with people online. So we have already shifted our paradigm, and not necessarily in a long period, but in a short period. It would have taken people probably 4 or 5 years to think about, or I'm going to say 4 or 5
or longer.
Longer to think about doing
doctors, they're like, I don't have to do that.
Right. But now this new shift has made us really adapt to a lot easier and a lot clearer. Okay. So it's not really hard. They're faced with it, so they have to make the change. It's an easier sell. Let me say it that particular way.
Yeah, so you know, like behavior change and like reprogramming your brain and your behaviors, you know, it's like 21 days or something. And it's part of the reason for 31 days. I wanted to change behavior completely. So at the end of this 31 days, I'm not the same as I was at day one. And hopefully people are participating in this. And because this has been going on for a couple months, more than, you know, a while, it really has changed behaviors, because now it's entrenched. Like it's part of who we are. It wasn't just 5 days and that was nice and I'm back to normal. But we know from 9/11 that there were people talking about how they were going to focus more on their purpose, how they were going to change their lives, how they were looking at the world in a new and amazing way. And then as time slipped by, they went right back to their old patterns and old behaviors that they had prior to 9/11. And I think most people probably don't even think about 9/11. I just happened to be in New York at that time, so I think about it often. What advice, what recommendations would you have for people to avoid falling back into a trap of going back to the way that was before, particularly today, because the train's left the station. What are your thoughts around that? Like, of helping people avoid going back to the behavior they had before once we get through this COVID-19 and keep going with this new creative, stretching, transforming opportunity that's in front of us?
That's a good question, Sean. And I think how you started it off earlier with the vision board and listing the challenges, okay? Because we're not going to come out of this anytime quickly. This is not going to be a quick solution.
Yeah.
So if you're not planning right now, as you said, you're going to miss that train that already left the station. You won't be able to catch it at the next stop. You may be able to, but it's going to take you a while to jump on it. Okay.
Yeah.
So I would advise any entrepreneur, I would advise anybody who's seasoned entrepreneur, basically is to keep themselves basically abreast of what's going on and use that vision board, what you just spoke of.
Yeah.
Looking at challenges, looking at ideas, and try to come up with a solution for them. It may not happen right away, but your mind is thinking about that. And the more you stay engaged about challenges and solutions, the better it be for your business. Because in a lot of scenarios, and again, as I mentioned about this book that I'm reading, Inflection Point, it talks about the Netflix, how it went from basically doing DVDs to becoming a digital platform to now doing independent movies. It took a long time for them to get that way. And how they entered the market was, again, I'm probably dating my age here, remember Blockbuster, okay?
Of course.
Blockbuster had a lock on the market. Yeah. Netflix came in and started doing, because they used to charge these outrageous fees for people who didn't rewind the tapes. Right. Netflix came in and started basically giving it, said, we don't care. Then they started doing the digital, the little digital disc. And a lot of people, again, I'm dating my age here. But at a time, they started evolving. And that company went through so many different gyrations before it got to where it is today. So my point is, you may have that idea that you don't see, and I'm going to use the analogy again, how snow melts. It melts from the edges, okay? Mm-hmm. It may take a minute before it melts all together, before the idea comes to fruition. But you got to start thinking about it, and it's going to melt, and it's going to come. So you got to look at the edges and work your way in. So keep abreast of what's going on. Use the vision board, which you just spoke of, and just continue to see how you can come up with solutions to challenges. And today's is a problem right now.
Yeah.
How can I get myself involved in this from an entrepreneurial standpoint? How can I make it better? It's the whole analogy about building a better mousetrap. How can I make that mousetrap better?
Yeah, and it's thinking different, right? It's not thinking the same way. The world has literally changed, and the way I look at it is, it's like we're 2 months into at least 24 months of change. Even if in 12 or 18 months there's a vaccine or sooner, it's still this long period of transition, because the damage has been done, and now hopefully it won't get worse. And now it's really a matter of thinking, at least in my mind, I'm planning 1 year at a time now. Again, 6 months, 1 week, 1 month, 6 months, but thinking in a year, can't really think much past a year at this point, because we just don't know enough. And so I guess the other thing is helping people to get comfortable being uncomfortable, because this is an uncomfortable, what you're talking about is uncomfortable, Marvin. How do you manage your uncomfortableness when it comes to having to reinvent yourself? I mean, you've been doing this a long time, and now you're having to reinvent yourself. How do you overcome the uncomfortableness of that?
Oh, it's a challenge. Trust me, it's a challenge.
Fair enough.
It's pretty much engaging with other people and sharing ideas, sharing thoughts. As a matter of fact, I had a conversation with someone yesterday. Mm-hmm. We were looking at what's next. And as I said, I'm making a pivot and trying to say, how can, with my experience and knowing something about healthcare, get involved in this next wave? And so we were looking at what's next: cleaning, sanitation, You know, as I talked about the contact tracing, what is the next thing? Or do you want to get into basically providing personal protection equipment as a business? So I'm just thinking and thinking and thinking. And as you know, as an entrepreneur, you know, you're always looking at what is next and how do I get involved? And it's just a matter of engaging with other people, doing what we're doing right now to share and bounce off ideas. That's how I've been trying to stay motivated and active.
That's great.
Is keep that vision, keep those people around you engaged with you. And that has really helped me get to the next spot, stay unstuck.
That's great. Marvin, thank you for being here. So grateful. And we'd love to have you back on again. And let's talk more about how we look around the corner for what's next.
Hey, Sean, I want to do this one more time. For
yeah, do it, please.
I'm going to put this up.
And you didn't write this book, but you're just digging it, huh?
I'm loving this book. Please, Seeing Around the
Corner. Rita McGrath. Perfect. Yeah. Thank you so much.
It's a great read for any entrepreneur. I encourage you to read this book.
That's great advice. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Marvin. See you again soon. Well, thank you so much, Marvin. I mean, I think that this is the trick, everybody. Let's pull out our crystal ball, I like to call it, and see. Let's look into the future. There are some things you can predict. We have already had an entrepreneur from Zambia come on and is pivoting into making sanitizer with their small manufacturing plant they have. And so they're shifting what they're working on based upon what customers want and what they're looking for. And so being open, being flexible, and willing to change based upon a changing environment and getting comfortable, being uncomfortable is always a great strength to have, particularly as an entrepreneur. Amy, who do we have next? Amelia, how are you today? Oh, I can't hear you. Unmute, please.
Yeah, I had not unmuted. Hi.
Where are you from?
Nairobi, Kenya.
It's good to be. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Is it the rainy season there? Are you having lots of rain?
Lots of rain, floods. But right now in Nairobi is shiny. But around the country, we are having a lot of floods and a lot of havoc. Actually, it's really bad.
That just compounds what's going on with COVID-19. I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
What can I help you with? Do you have a question? You have a challenge you want to work on?
Yes, I have this challenge of being stuck.
Okay, we're going to get you unstuck.
The thing is, I have my business is a compound of several. I was trying to merge in several businesses to be able.
Let's take a step back. Let me ask you a question, and this would help make sure we get to it as quick as possible, so we can spend more of our time solving problem solving. In 30 seconds.
Yes.
What's your product and service? Who's your customer? How do you make money? Go. Who's your product and service? Who's your customer? How do you make money? 30 seconds.
My product is transport, food, and bed. Bed and breakfast.
Got it.
Yeah. So my customers are students, anybody who's passing by, and guys who want to eat well.
Okay, good.
And the transport is a luxury. It's a luxury van that I have.
And so you move people around. It's back to the airport or wherever they need to go.
Yes, and then those company from Egypt that had come in to do transport with an app that we were working on, but got a bit of frustration, and it's hard to be halted a bit.
What's the challenge and what's got you stuck?
What got us stuck is our country. Unfortunately, the transport system did not want to give us a license to do the hailing, the hailing of their vans.
Right, I know what you're talking about.
Yes, so they frustrated us on that.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of back and forth and a lot of money exchanging hands, and we had to, we just had to stop. A few people went on, but it still did not. It didn't go well with us. But it's supposed to be still in the process. But right now with the COVID, no one is going to work because most of the clients were people who are going to work and maybe going across town, and they don't want to stop um, to change to get into another vehicle. You know how you stop at once
I do.
and get into another. So
Yeah. Not
this
probably very safe environments right now with COVID-19. The way people pack into those vehicles.
yeah, but this system was working so well because you get your seat and you're able to go across town to the different destinations that they have, and without having to change vehicles, and in the comfort of the van.
Yeah, but so what's got you stuck?
Where am I stuck?
Yeah, how are you stuck right now? How can we get unstuck?
We're not getting the right license to do that.
So the license is the issue we're having, and you've got no control over this though right now, and it's probably not going to happen for a while, right?
Yeah, it's not going to happen for a while, and we're praying that the government will actually introduce a license specifically for that, because they have licenses for.
What happens if you drive without the license?
What's that?
What happens if you do it without? What happens if you start driving without the license?
No, we have a license, but they say it's not the right one. The license that I had is for the van would go all over the country. Yeah, but now we got this contract with the Swivel, the company that was giving us the work, and we were doing this within town.
My question is
from your
right now, while you're waiting for the proper license, what happens if you go out and you start operating without that license right now? What happens?
Right now, there's no work.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So even if you had the license, you really couldn't drive right now anyway, right?
No.
Right. So, how are you? And I'm going to guess that it's going to be slower in terms of people being out and getting picked up, and some people are just are going to be uncomfortable, and it's going to impact the amount of patrons that would go on buses. Yeah. So how can you, and this goes back to Marvin, who was just on right now, how do we look around the corner? How do you look around the corner and see what's next, and start planning and preparing for that, and versus what was before COVID-19, particularly in Kenya? Every time I'm there and in Nairobi, I think I come away with at least 2 or 3 different, anywhere I go in Africa, honestly, 2 or 3 new business ideas.
Oh.
Every time I'm there, right? And I write them down and then I shuffle them away because I'm like, okay, I can't focus on that right now. But there's so much opportunity in Kenya, and how can you think different? Like one thought I have is like getting involved with mobile money and partnering with a bank and starting to sell mobile money to people and getting a revenue share from a bank. Shift gears, like that's a dramatic shift. But you could probably do that. You could probably get a partnership with a bank who's interested in selling mobile money wallets or getting people on e-commerce or whatever it may be. And
if it's
you probably get a team, you could go sell those and then have revenue share. I know it's not what you're doing, but what I'm trying to do is help you kind of think different and shift. Like it's definitely a different kind of business you're going to need to think about. You've got a physical bed and breakfast.
Okay, I hear you, but that mobile money sector is saturated. Too many people. It's all over around every round.
Yeah. So I'm not trying to tell you that's what to do. I was trying to whack you up the head and go, okay, how do I think different? Yeah, I know. Okay, yeah, it's saturated, but there's still opportunities, and it may be saturated in Nairobi, but it may not be saturated outside of Nairobi, right? I'll bet you it's not so saturated if you go to the coast of Kenya, you know.
No,
And so,
Safaricom is all over.
yeah, no, it's in all the countries, but if you take the percentage of people who are on mobile money versus those that aren't, you got a much larger percentage that aren't than are, even though it looks saturated. Now, I'm not saying to go do that. I'm just trying to help you think different so that you can process where is the future going versus where it was. And you're kind of part of the reason you're stuck is you're stuck in what was and not where it's going. This goes back to Marvin's discussion, and I think this book he recommended, Looking Around the Corner. Marvin, I still see you. I don't know if you're there. Can you hold that book up for remind me? Or Amy, do you have that book you can put into Seeing Around the Corners is the name of the book.
Okay.
And that is something that I would recommend. Whatever you can do to start thinking different is what's important right now, because whatever worked for you in the past may not and is likely not to work the same way in the future. And being creative and allowing yourself. Did you see that exercise I did at the beginning, the visual overcoming your challenges?
Yes.
Do that. Will you do that? Are you willing to write down your challenges and then think of solutions? Bring in your most creative person, your friend that's the most creative, most outrageous, thinks that dolphins talk, and have them come in and brainstorm with you the challenges and the solutions, and then some level of actionable items, and start thinking about how you can start moving forward in a new way, because the license is out of your control. It's not going to happen for a while. And I know a little bit about the Kenyan government, having started a couple organizations in Kenya myself. And, it's an unpredictable thing, even in good times versus now. And so if you need to create revenue, which I'll bet you do, I would be figuring out ways to create revenue rapidly in a new way, leveraging your experience, what you have, and your assets. I see Marvin's on this call. Marvin, do you have something you want to add?
Yeah, I just want to ask the question. What's the businesses again, please?
A bed and breakfast, and then transport.
Just a bed and breakfast.
Food. She provides food at the.
I have an eatery, yeah.
And the transport is moving people around. She's trying to get a license so that she can actually just run that transport full time and act like a bus, matatu, I think.
Okay. So I'm not abreast with what's happening in your country as far as with COVID, how affected you guys are maybe there. But one of the questions I would ask is, you have a transport company, and seeing as the way that hospitals are inundated or medical facilities are inundated, maybe you need to pivot from a transport for just commercial use and pivot for a transport for medical use, okay? And basically how you would differentiate yourself in this particular instance is that, hey, we have a sort of a hybrid type medical van that is clean, sterilized, that we can take you to appointments, okay? All right, because you have to look at the situations we're around right now. People are afraid to come in contact with a lot of different people, right? So you have a van that you can transport and send people, take them from point A to point B. What is the issue that medical facilities, doctors' offices are maybe faced with right now? Maybe your vans can be a solution to that. Okay? So I would look at that. Also, if you have a bed and breakfast, maybe there's a scenario where someone has to quarantine themselves away. Maybe someone's affected in the household and the other people are not affected. Maybe your bed and breakfast could be a solution to people who don't have a place to go stay while someone's in quarantine. You see those ideas?
Okay, I get you, but my kind of setup for the bed and breakfast is a hostel kind of setup where there are 4 beds in one room, 3 beds in another, and 2 beds in another.
I'm going to call timeout. I'm calling timeout here. Timeout.
Okay.
Marvin?
Yes.
I love you. Every time we're together, you come up with really good out of the box, what box ideas. I think what's most important about this, Amelia, is the process of thinking different.
Yes.
Right? That's what, and so what I hear you doing, and I'm gonna give a little dose of tough love here. It's the first dose I've given on this show. Every time a new idea has been presented, I've seen a pattern with you in a very short period of time, which I'll bet you continues on, is a reason why it can't be done. That's what I'm experiencing, and I'm not judging you on this. I'm identifying it with you right now, and what I'd like to propose is working to learn to suspend judgment in these moments. This is hard, and I think I'll give an exercise tomorrow on this process. But suspending judgment allows you to sit with new ideas, new concepts that then allow you to process those in a way that can be adaptive and help you evolve and innovate in terms of what you're doing.
Okay.
But what Marvin just gave you is gold. It's gold.
I know.
And,
I get it. Thank you.
yeah, and so when you find yourself, here's what one exercise and one thing I would say, and it's like this: when you find yourself and you hear yourself saying why it won't work, or why you've got this situation, or why it's this way and not that way, stop yourself in those moments, pull back, and say, okay, how can I learn from this, and how can I apply this in my situation? Run it through a whole bunch of different, visualize it, run it through a whole bunch of scenarios. If in the end it's not viable, fair enough, but at least focus on it enough to get it to a place where it could be an opportunity. Because his transport idea, and there aren't enough, there's not enough ambulances there in Nairobi, is really, they must be looking for other transports. And so Marvin, again, that was a great one, and thanks for being here and stepping in on this. Amelia, let's follow up with you, and let's keep in touch. But we look forward to hearing how you adapt, and I hope that you will take some of this wisdom that we've shared here in coaching and apply it as you move forward with your business.
I sure will.
Thank you very much, Amelia. I appreciate you being here today.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I've worked literally with thousands and thousands of businesses now around the world. And this is a common challenge that we find. And it really, I can't attach to it, and I don't, because what I've learned is you can't make people do anything. It's the whole idea of, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make them drink it. And so somehow you have to find that intestinal fortitude, that part inside your belly, that fire, that furnace that allows you to move to a new place, that energizes you to move forward, because it's easier to stay stuck than it is to get unstuck, because you have to change your behavior. You have to change the way you think. You have to change who you are to get unstuck. I recommend learning how to get unstuck. Okay, thank you so much. Who is next on our call?
Sean,
Emma.
how are you?
I am fabulous, my friend. How about you?
Oh, good. I want to commend you. This has been such a great, I don't know, so you've been doing it how many days? Was this like your 11th?
This is number 6.
6th day.
6 days at 31 days.
I love it.
It's one of those things where you wake up some morning at 6 a.m., which I didn't wake up at 6 a.m. before for quite some time, and ask myself, what was I thinking? Was this really what I wanted to do? And then I say, yes, it is. And so here we are, because I get Marvin's and Amelia's and Seema's. And so what are you thinking now? I mean, you work with a lot of businesses like Marvin.
I do.
And positioning, strategy, marketing, promotion. This is in the DMV, DC, Virginia, Maryland area. Everyone who's out there now, what are you doing, and what actions are you taking to help your clients think different and get unstuck?
So very similar to Marvin's conversation. It would be fun to have a 3-way. I've been focused on pivot strategies. Okay, so I've been doing a lot of presentations, sharing the fact that your customer of just 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago is completely different today. So like pain points of your customer, you have to really, really assess who they are, what their need is now. And initially, obviously, most people have been communicating with their actual customers. But one of the biggest challenges is like this balance of trying to serve people and help and support people and sell, right? And I don't know, I mean, if you've seen that, obviously with COVID-19 and the pandemic, this is not going to be a short-term thing, as you discussed, right? So when is it the appropriate time to start getting back into actually building some cash flow? Because as you know, small businesses are dying. Industries are dying overnight. I've been spending
it's a global situation.
It's a global situation. I've been spending a ton of time looking at consumer spending habits, consumer sentiment in terms of what they feel like with safety and, you know, large venues and short-term and long-term, some of the trends that are coming out by industry. So when
what are you seeing?
So, okay, so consumer spending, so the big thing, the big trend is people are focused on not essentials, right? So one of the things I've been coaching,
things that they need.
Yeah, so
not they want.
Exactly. Right. So I've been coaching a lot of businesses when you're looking to tweak your business model in our current situation. How do we create products or offerings that are now converted from non-essential to essential, right? So I'll give you a couple examples. Walter's Restaurant, they're based in Navy Yard. They're an establishment for the local folks there. It's just a newer beer establishment otherwise. You know, he owns like 4 restaurants in the city, and he was really concerned about the overall supply chain of food and distribution, and obviously his people working there and the local community. So he ended up changing. He's doing takeout and whatever they can do with just bringing in that income. But he created a CSA, CSA type model where he's leveraging the distribution for the fruits and vegetables, packaging and bundling, using a couple of his restaurants for drop-offs and delivery, so he can hire back some of the folks that will not, you know, qualify for unemployment or other things in that space. I've seen companies.
I got a question. I got a question for you there. So that's kind of a temporary fix, right?
Yep.
Just temp. 2 months, 20 and 24 months. It's kind of how I look at life. We're in 2 months of 24 months. So there's 22 months to go before we're truly on the other side. Maybe longer, right? Possibly.
And some industries are going to change forever, including.
Yeah, well, some are going to go away, and we know that. And I sold out of all of my airline stock before Warren Buffett did, so I felt good about that. What are you doing, and what is it you would advise somebody? Because there's lots of restaurants around the world. All the restaurants around the world are challenged. They're going to be going out of business. I think about some of my favorite restaurants. One of them is in Nairobi, Talisman. A couple in Pakistan, and I worry about those restaurants, right? For one, but how are you helping them think different about long term? The future, what Marvin was talking about, around the corner. What does a restaurant look like around the corner? Because I went to I've picked up a couple of pizzas myself and gone in and thought, there's no way in hell I'm coming back here, because this is really uncomfortable. The way it's all set up, these giant plastic screens, or, you know, it's very uncomfortable.
So
what are you advising, and how are you helping them think about the future? That's what I'm wanting to know.
So I think that's a really good question. And one of the things that I focus on before going into here's this whatever framework of pivoting is really looking at market trends, right? You and Marvin started talking about that. So I was like, Google is your best friend right now. Look at the headlines of what's happening with restaurants, right? Google, LinkedIn, looking at thought leaders in the space, looking at just like consumer sentiment. So restaurants in general, what the current insights have been is a lot more people are going to have smaller inside, like a space, commercial space, more outdoor space, definitely takeout windows. Right now they're allowing, you know, alcohol to be sold, which is really a lot of the money makers for restaurants is that percentage. You know, and I think the takeout delivery ecosystem, a lot of people have to make it much more robust and somehow, you know, create better customer experiences through that. I know in general, commercial real estate is going to take a big hit, right? A lot of people are realizing that You don't need this much space for working from home, for example, right? Or people are working from home now, for example.
Huge
So headquarters are going to shrink. Retail is going to shrink forever. It's like, even I was just listening to Inc. There's a podcast on Inc. Magazine, and Mark Cuban was on it. And he was just sharing what some of the issues of, like, when you walk into a store, a retail store, and someone tries on clothing, you're really going to have to sanitize that. So this retail markets are going to have to think about, do they not?
It's not going to be comfortable. It's not going to be comfortable.
You need to go. Maybe they try on things at home. You can only have a few people in your store at one time. But the problem is you have to also reconcile the business model, because now you're taking away all this traffic from people. How are they going to pay their bills, right? So you have to think differently of how you're going to get more sales, or focus on different distribution channels than you ever have in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I love this. For me, I get energized every day now in a way that even before we launched 31 Days to PADITU, I just was excited because there's something going on right now that represents tremendous opportunity. Now, it looks like my mother had COVID. She was in isolation in the hospital, almost died.
I'm sorry.
And she's still with us, and she'll be a special guest on Sunday, Insights with Sean's mom. Coming Sunday, I just made the announcement there. And she's going to coach me, because she is. And so I think that what I'm saying is, I know people are being impacted by this. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't want anybody to die on, prematurely or earlier because of some irresponsible behaviors. But outside of that piece of it, there is more opportunity now than ever before. Agreed. In terms of changing the way things are. So that could be our economy. Who needs all that stuff anyway? Yeah. Right? I wonder. I went to zero at one point. And sold everything, went to zero, and slowly I've got more stuff again now. And so do you see, this will be the last question because we got to move, we got a special guest next and I can't wait. Do you think are you sensing a new kind of way to create an economy or economics and change? Warren Buffett kind of alluded to something while he was doing his conference the other Saturday, and the ideas of how to reinvent how our economy is driven in a way that isn't so much about consumerism, which takes away from the planet and impacts. And I think it's 32 years now, the cleanest skies in DC. And around the world, you see that you see blue skies, you see mountains. It's because we're not consuming as much. Thoughts? You got a minute.
Lots of big. To your point, right? We have never had a time where the world was on pause. Okay, and now we're seeing all these implications. There's so many memes, and I actually say study the memes because they're true. They're comedic, but they're true, right? Where in the past everyone not that my kids aren't doing that too, but I've never been outside so much hiking in my life, right? That there is connectivity between even though we're doing it virtual, people are connecting with their older friends and needing that connection in a different way. Depression and anxiety is also on a high. There's a mixed balance. So I think, looking at the fact that we are at a pause, anytime somebody comes out of a recession or say 9/11 was something that affected me personally, people think differently. I said,
only for a short period. On 9/11, it was very short.
It was short. I was in New York. Maybe it was a little different. It took some time, but digital transformation is something corporations and entrepreneurs have been talking about for a long time. COVID-19 now is leading the charge on that. It's going from industrial to digital overnight. We probably are pushed our whole cycle 10 years ahead, right? Yep. So there is, I keep saying, I get that, a chair has been pulled under from all of us, but what is the opportunity? Think about what's the possibility now versus what it was before. The fact that you're on digital, Sean, and you can now spread your message all that knowledge and wisdom that you have from all the countries and all the entrepreneurs you've worked at. How amazing is that?
Totally. I totally agree.
And
they're being asked, why didn't I do this before? And I tell them because I was uncomfortable doing this.
Right. No, it's huge.
So, do it afraid is what we've been saying all along. And Seema, I just thank you for being here and thanks for your thoughts, because I think that we're living in a miraculous time as human beings, and we're fortunate if we can look past and find ways to get unstuck, because the opportunities are great right now, and we just have to think different and behave differently.
I love it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Wow, we got quite a show, and you know who's next? I think is Mortaza next, Amy? Because I got to see him. Mortaza.
Hello, Sean.
The Elon Musk of Pakistan, live with us today.
That's a great.
How are you? How are you doing? Your family's good?
Absolutely, all doing well.
All right, you're in Islamabad?
Yes.
Okay. I know you were in Peshawar for a while, right?
Yeah, I used to travel there. Peshawar is 2 hours away, so I used to, just go there, once in a week. Yeah, but I was living in Islamabad all the way.
Well, we've done a lot of work together, Mortaza, and helped a lot of businesses and supported Pakistan's entrepreneurial ecosystem over the last 7 years, I think, something like this. What's on your mind? What are you like? I wonder, you're running an electric car, electric car company. You're just involved in a lot of different activities. What are you seeing and what's relevant? And
so, Sean, number one thing is that COVID-19 is really making a big impact in a way that, we used to play differently, we used to live in a different manner, we used to work in a different manner. Mm-hmm. And we also forgot how to cook, right? And COVID-19, while it's making all these changes in our lives, the way we live, work, or play, they're making us better cooks as well. I cook.
Always positive attitude, Mortaza, for sure.
And to be very honest, in this lockdown, there's some things which I realized, and one of the things is that all those suits and clothes in my cupboard is, they're not good for anything nowadays. All the shoes, they're still stacked up. I think I've hardly used one pair of shoes. So with this era, we are also realizing many other things as well, right? So minimalism is something which is coming back to us. And if you look at the past 3-4 decades, the commercial boom, people used to buy, spend, go out, bust their credit card limits, and now things are changing because people need very less things to survive. Right. At the same time, when you go out, you see a very clear sky, and I can see mountains from here. So overall, there's also this thinking that maybe whatever is happening might have a lesson for us, and that lesson is, in my opinion, is very clear. But as an entrepreneur, I have now 6-7 different ventures, and few of them took a big hit. Especially the services business, because our clients are off. Few contracts were halted, stopped. At the same time, few more contracts or new work came our work as well. Because with the changing atmosphere, people need digitization, people need apps, they need e-commerce platforms and stuff like that, right? So everybody, especially countries like the second world or third world, they were not so much on digital space. But right now, there's a race going on because everybody wants to be on apps, everybody wants to sell online, and that is a great opportunity for entrepreneurs to ensure that this digital transformation can be sorted for all these small and medium enterprises, right? At the same time, what I did was that in Pakistan, there was a great shortage of good quality masks, right? And I had designers, industrial engineers, and we came up with a very cool, classy mask as well. It's pretty secure. It's N95. We have launched it. And we called it AirDoc 19. So if you go to airdoc19.com, you can see a mask over there. And today, while we were, while I was waiting for this broadcast, my colleague came and he just gave the very first lot to my wife, because I was busy in this. So we are in business now, and the thought was that we want to provide that to frontline soldiers, to law enforcement agencies, to doctors, so that when they're dealing with situation, they're able to procure cost-effective masks and secure themselves. So that is the thought behind it. But at the same time, it does not mean that it will not be a sustainable initiative or it will not have any profits for the company and all. So,
so I have a question, Mortaza, because I think that what is it, and I admire this in you so much. What is it, and what do you think your key is to be able to look at the world through a lens of possibility versus or abundance? You have an abundance mentality versus scarcity mentality in that sense. What is it that keeps you? What do you think that secret is that helps you have that positive possibilitarian kind of mindset where you're off doing face masks immediately and figuring out how to make those, as one example?
So I think for any good business, one thing is very important: whether it will fulfill some need, whether it will help people. You need to have that sort of a mindset, right? And
how do you do it? How do you do it? How do you keep that? What are you doing in your mind that causes you to want to come up with, hey, we need to go change this and start making masks. This is what we need to do.
So this is how it all started. I will explain it in a minute.
It's a mindset. I want to know the mindset behind it, not the process, not the steps you took to do that. So, it's in your mind. How do you think that way, Mortaza?
In every situation, I usually sit back and reflect on everything, whatever is going around me. And the first instinct as an entrepreneur which comes to me is to get into a survival mode, right? So sit back, reflect, and secure yourself in a manner that you get into a survival mode. And that survival mode is where you analyze how can you keep going. This might last for 3 months, this might last for 6 months or a year or 2 years, right? But we are far, but we will be together one day, right? We are having this conversation. We will meet and hug each other one day, right, Sean?
One day.
So that survival.
Our sons will meet each other.
Yes, absolutely. So that survival mode, how do I get through it? Now, once you have that in your planning and in your mind, your team is up with it, then you get into product innovation. Because if you are in a survival mode, this can directly relate with your product innovation as well, or but what we did was that we sat back and we said, okay, fine, this is what we have to sustain ourselves for these XYZ months, right? These are the steps which we need to take in order to cut costs and stuff like that. But then what's next? And that is where we realized that we have industrial designers, we have engineers, we have 3D artists, we have expertise in plastic molding and stuff like that. And then we were like, oh, there's a great need. People are exploiting others by coming up with these masks, these overpriced masks, because they're and we thought, no, first we have to help people that to get, if we can make this in Pakistan, let's do it. And then we came up with this AirDoc 19, and 19 is for obviously COVID-19, and AirDoc is like doctor for air, which you breathe, right? So this is how we thought that once we had that peace of mind in which you actually have to, being an entrepreneur, you need to realize and accept the ground realities as well. I have been talking to many people, many startups, and they're not accepting. Either they're in a sense of a depression sort of a thing, having a negative mindset. You need to come out of that. Relax yourself. That is the key. Relax yourself. Only then you will analyze and will come up with something which can be worthy enough. And during this journey, the most important thing which we realized was our communication with stakeholders. with our team members, with prospect customers, with prospect investors, or the investors who we had already in our companies, with partners. So everybody needs to communicate, come up with plans, come up with support. So we came up with a lot of resources which were available to us free of cost, and we took benefit of it. In good days, during the good days, like 2 months back, we never needed such sort of things, right? We never needed any favors. We never needed such communication. But now we're on a different level, and since everybody in the world is in this storm together, and they realize this together, we might not be in the same boat, but we are definitely in the same storm, right?
Yes.
So people started giving, opening up, great ideas, great support, and we were able to do something nice for the country, right?
Yeah.
And while we were doing it, when we told people that how cheap it can be in Pakistan, people are reaching out to us so that we can export it. So it has just opened up another dimension for us, that why cannot we, maybe there is protection gears or mask for other things as well, like for example a paint shop, for example this XYZ and all, right? For other viruses, for other purposes. So I think it has opened up another avenue of business for us. And but at the same time, let me tell you, Sean, with my technology development company Cybervision, I think my team is making me really, really, really proud. Although we are short on cash flow, few contracts were stopped, few are at pause because things are not moving, clients are not in the office, payments are not being processed. But they all came together just because of my very open communication. For the very first time, I made a group with everyone, even our colleague who cleans the office, on a WhatsApp group. And I spoke about it openly, that this is what we are going through. These can be the consequences. But if we want to be on top of it, we want to be the company who did not fire a single employee during COVID-19. We want to be the company who would say very proudly that during COVID-19, we did not let anyone leave their job. In fact, we were hiring people, and that goodwill will give us so much, credibility in the market, that good people will be willing to join us while others are busy firing people. We are busy trying to keep them and, maybe, make them happy too. And this also, another blessing in this is that we have realized that working on Zoom or Slack or Time Doctor, Asana, all these tools which are there to manage teams, collaborate, have meetings and all, this really saves our time. So in Pakistan, there was a concept of physical meeting, that I have to go physically meet someone. Even if I have a half-hour meeting in Karachi, I had to fly, pay like $200 or $300, meet that guy, come back. And now things will change because they would be used to it. So this transformation is making us used to very good things in life, right?
Yeah.
So I guess probably there's a lesson for us.
Well, what a great exercise you have there too, in terms of just sitting back, reflecting, and then kind of allowing your mind to wander. I mean, what you're doing is you're letting your imagination go and suspending judgment. You suspend judgment in those moments because you're looking for the possibilities. When did you start doing that? When did you start, is this a natural thing you had all your life, or have you been practicing and learning and improving your ability to change? It's like you're reprogramming your brain, honestly.
Well, I guess being an entrepreneur is somebody, an entrepreneur also comes with a lot of responsibility, right? It's not like, few people think they have a different lens that, oh, they're there, these guys will be making money and stuff like that. But in reality, there's a lot of responsibility. We have to make sure that the families are dependent on us, right? We have to ensure that our clients who were working with us, they need few things, and we need to be there to ensure that the service is there, to ensure that we meet their needs, right? So this is your very first, as an entrepreneur, this is something which you really need to be very much worried about all the time. But then at the same time, what my mindset is that
I'm going to say time out, because I think that that's maybe somewhat of a unique, not unique, but maybe not everybody who's an entrepreneur takes a responsibility for their employees or takes on like a duty. And I think maybe it's a cultural, it's a cultural thing where you feel this responsibility, or it's part of a responsibility. What about entrepreneurs who maybe don't feel that level of responsibility? How can they?
So
you see
we
what I'm
all
saying?
have.
I think you know what I'm talking about here. Like you really represent what's possible in terms of taking responsibility and doing what's right, what's best, versus what's most expeditious and most efficient, let's say. Where did you get this like sense of responsibility that you have?
So this sense of responsibility, pretty much, I remember 15 years back when I was starting my own entrepreneur journey. I just witnessed that people used to, my friends used to get their salaries late and stuff like that. And that is when I thought that I'm never going to do such sort of things, and I will ensure that the business cash flow is there. But I get what you're saying. So what about the opportunities or, looking into things? To be very honest, Sean, I can come up with a very nice, flashy answer to that. But the truth is,
No flashy.
When you have an open mind, and you surround yourself with good, great people who think positively, who talk about ideas, you always find partners. So, except my very first company, Cybervision, I'm the sole owner, but all the other ventures, I have partners. So now we have this electric vehicle venture, we have a solar company, we have a digital design agency, we have an HR outsourcing company. Now we have this AirTalk 19, right? And all of these companies, I might have not taken one or two names, all of these companies, I found great people, great partners who value each other, right? So the trick is, keep your mind open, keep looking, but surround yourself with positive people who have the right energy, and you will always find things to do. And as far as as an entrepreneur, my mind works very differently. And a friend of mine in California, I was talking to her, and I was like, you know what, I'm into so many different sort of sectors and verticals, and a lot of people say that you need to have a very sharp focus on what you're doing, and maybe build one thing and make it a great thing. And she said, well, have you heard about Richard Branson?
Of course.
And I was like, okay, that's a good point. I'll take it from here, right? So yeah, so at times you question yourself, and the answer to that was that maybe my focus is to finding such opportunities and building companies, right? So I love doing that, and I think I will continue doing that.
I mean, focus, right? I think that, yes, Richard Branson and I'll take you, I have multiple businesses myself, multiple actions going on simultaneously, generally speaking. When you're starting out, though, and you're just beginning to understand how to start a business, even Richard Branson started with a record store, right? It was just one record store. And he got that record store very popular. It started generating money. Then he realized, okay, wait a minute, I can license music, and started licensing music through artists who would come in and try to pitch their records. And so he was focused. And I think that sometimes when we use those examples, they're okay if you've got a lot of experience, which you do, right? But you were Cybervision and then giving back to the community originally, and then through time learned how to identify team members, because what Richard Branson does is he hires CEOs to run those divisions. He doesn't run them at all. And so it goes back to the whole notion of nothing of greatness happens without a team. Collect people, and then you can move in any direction. And then what you're doing now is sharing, right? You're not the sole owner of those businesses. So other people have some ownership, and then they are working just as hard as you are. Is that right?
You're right. I'm CEO of one company, and all of the other companies we have full-time CEOs, right? So that's right. I think you have nailed it.
I think that's important to remind people. I want to be clear, because I could see the audience out there going, see, I could focus on lots of things at one time. He just said I could, but the reality is focus is still important. And while you've got these lots of endeavors. You've got somebody intentionally focused on that business 100% so that it keeps going.
To put things in right perspective, I remember the first company I started in 2000. It's been 20 years. And for the very first 15, 16 years, I only ran one business.
That's right. Yeah.
So,
I just wanted to clarify that, because I could see people twisting that around and messing with us, and that focus is still critical and important, and making sure you got those right people. And what I hear from you is that over time, you've been able to collect some really, really good people, and that now you're a magnet, and that the good people come to you. And so now it's even easier to find good people as you go out and start these new endeavors. Amy, good morning to you.
Good morning. I have someone who texted in a question for Mortiza, and it's on WhatsApp, and I didn't have time, but it seems so relevant. The question is, I'll read it. The question is, you started a business and it couldn't have been easy. It never is. How did you find yourself out of stuck? And I just put, how did you find your way out of stuck when you were faced with stuck?
How'd you get unstuck when you were stuck is what they're saying.
Great. So yeah, many sleepless nights, many nights where when, there was a time when I was working on something and, the whole day passed and I didn't sleep. The next morning started and I kept working. And the very next night, I also didn't sleep. But around 4 a.m., I think I just lost it and slept on the floor. And this is back 15, 16 years, right? But at the same time, there were many sleepless nights when I knew things are not working out, when I knew we have big issues to cater, when I knew quality is a problem, people, need to collect better people, need to learn how to manage them, everything. So being an entrepreneur, that is the way it is. But I think there were times when, while trying to sleep at night, I used to wonder whether I'm doing the right thing, by pursuing this entrepreneurship. My friends are doing better now. I would have gotten a job, would be in a much better place. At least when they go on vacation, they never work. On every vacation, I also keep thinking about work and stuff like that. And then there are other issues, right? But at the same time, what makes you unstuck is the ultimate goal you set for yourself. And the goals can be different. It can be, it can be time bound. It can be a milestone bound. It can, so I keep my milestones very focused. And my milestones and goals are usually something which needs to be done, right? It is never about that, oh, this year I want to make like $1 million. It's not like that, right? So I need to do these XYZ things in place. And that is when you get into, because then these things are in your control, right? And revenue at times is not in your control. Everybody thought that we will be doing this, and then COVID-19 happened, or you lose major clients, or something comes up, you have to invest more and stuff like that. But I keep my focus on tasks to be done, that this I need to build in this particular time frame, and that motivation helps me, right? Because when there are challenges, I never think about not getting out of it. That's out of question. And for entrepreneurs, that's really out of question. You always have to come on top of it. So I don't even consider myself being stuck anywhere, because that has not been programmed in my mind. It is always like, fine, there's a problem. Problem is part of the journey, and I don't even consider problems. I at times laugh at them. Oh shoot, why did I not think about it? And now it's, oh God, like for example, we were doing really well, launching multiple things, and then March 15th, I realized that Corona is spreading, and we need to pause, because on March 15th, what happened was that 4 really great clients told us that, listen, things are collapsing, we cannot pay you more, and now we have to pause this, XYZ. And then I realized, oh, all our plans, we were thinking of these things, but now we are back on track, and we are still in a lockdown, and we're still working from home. And, things are really bad, but there are no problems. Just think like that. There is nothing like being stuck. You always need to, there is no other option being an entrepreneur. You have to overcome it. Full stop. Take it out of your dictionary.
I mean, Mortaza, I've experienced this with you a day in, day out. You always were an inspiration, because anytime we've had a challenge, and I believe part of that is where you're raised and born, where you have greater resilience because you have to continually come over the challenge, whatever that may be in your environment. And so I learned a lot from you in terms of the first and second and third and time we were hanging out about how to overcome, and that you continually looked at like, no problem, we'll figure it out. No problem, we'll figure it out. This, you actually, you're done, you know, your lines, your like mantras. And so I'm going to ask you a question. So your incentive, because, you know, everybody needs an incentive, right? And you're self-generating your own incentives. And your incentives are your goals and milestones. Is that how you'd look at them? They're the incentive you're creating for yourself, not a financial goal, but the thing to accomplish that's the goal. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely. And that keeps me really
the incentive pieces was really important, because sure, it's a goal and a milestone, but you're motivated to get that done. What kind of goals and milestones are you setting so that becomes the incentive?
So number one, it's not like that. If entrepreneurs must be listening to that, it's not like that. I don't look into Excel sheets and don't look at the total, which is right in front of the profit.
You draw pictures on walls though?
So numbers and profits, obviously that's like part and parcel, right? But something, I started, I think I find myself pretty blessed, because I started when I was 18, 19 years old. That is when I started my very first company, right? And I got a lot of time, and I think I still have a lot of time. And what I always believe is that whatever I'm doing, it needs to scale and it needs to become really big, right? And that really gives me the motivation that, and when I talk about making things big, money is a byproduct. Money comes, right? But at times, like I will tell you one silly thought process which I had around 9-10 years back, is that when I started my company, and then initial 3-4 years I passed by, and then there was always this thought that whenever I walk into office, my office should be this huge, large office with 200 people sitting in that and stuff like that. And that craze actually really, I always wanted to do something like increasing workforce and being happy about the number of people I hire, right? And then I went through a bad phase financially, and then I realized it's not about the number of people, it's about the quality of people. So that was a lesson well learned, right? And then we focus on the quality of people, right? So every time, even right now, with every business, I have numbers or I have things to do. For example, Sean, you will laugh, but after 3 years, when you come to Pakistan, I will take you to Nathia Gali, which is a hilly mountain station, and you will be there in a very nice hotel which we are building. Right?
Oh, I can't wait.
So, and my partners, when we started that hotel, so it's like a crowdsourced hotel, so we don't have the capital to build it, but you own a piece of it, right? So if anybody wants to listen to them and property in Pakistan, please feel free. But the vision is the next 10 years we at least should have 10 such hotels, right? And, so every year something. So, and obviously we did the math for one hotel, we know how much we'll be making out of it, but that is not that doesn't really motivate me. But this thing that 10 hotels in 10 years, yes, we want to do it. We want to become the biggest player. We want to become the best quality service provider when you compare us with other hotel chains in Pakistan, right? Although one of my very good friend, she's a part of it.
What are the Hashwanis thinking about you stepping into this space, Mortaza?
We are too small for now.
Okay. Yeah, they won't pay. They won't see it until you reach your ultimate goal. What I love about this, Mortaza, is that your intention is like the ultimate of entrepreneurship, and that is how do we scale, grow, replicate, and that's the thrill. And I totally get that, because we've got some big goals here with 31 Days to PADITU, right? And with everything, and I think that's something I hadn't really thought about in terms of. I always think a goal is important, but what you're really addressing here is that the excitement, the energy, the motivation you're getting, what keeps you going is a larger goal of something bigger, something more impactful overall. And that's a great insight.
Yeah, great.
Mortaza, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. Will you come back again?
Absolutely, would love to.
And then one day we'll do this live from Pakistan.
Inshallah. Very good.
Inshallah. Thank you, Mortaza. Say hello to everybody.
Thank you. Good seeing you, Sean. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Well, we've gone a little over time here today, but I just want to point out that conversation and Mortaza's gold nuggets of wisdom he shared with you in terms of how to motivate yourself, how to incentivize yourself to power through, how to look at everything as a possibility. There's nothing that can't be accomplished. There's no way to get around something. Is a mindset that an entrepreneurial mindset that will help serve you well in challenging times like we face today, and in good times we'll face in the future. So with that, let's check this off here. Day number 6. Day 6 is over. Day 7 comes tomorrow. Same PADITU channel, same PADITU station. Thank you so much, everybody.
You got to never ever give up. Keep it up, never ever give up. Keep it up, never ever give up. Keep it up, never ever give up.
Believe in yourself and you'll go far.